Welcome to a brand new edition of If I Ever Live to Be. Today I have Andi Pigott Martin on with me. She's the author of the upcoming book, Dancing Into Deliverance. Andi, first, welcome.
Thank you, Whitney. It is such an absolute pleasure and honor to get to chat with you today. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I always have to give a shout out whenever there's a backstory of how I got connected to one of my guests. And so, previous guest, also a member of Few. So, if you follow me at all, you hear me mention Few all the time. Heidi Haino actually connected us. So, she was on podcast a little bit late last year. And then she and I connected you. And you two have known each other for like ever.
Forever. Yeah. 30, at least 30 years. Yeah. Wow. I shouldn't be that old.
That's an amazing friendship, though. I mean, even that in itself just deserves a round of applause and recognition because that's really hard to find. Like, you're lucky, I feel like, if you've got that one friend that you've had with you for most of your life.
Oh, I am so incredibly blessed. She's amazing. She's been with me through the really ugly, the really debaucherous, all the way to now the really Jesus-y. I don't know how else to put that, but God's just done an amazing transformation in both of our lives. And it's been really interesting to see him carry us from these, in our 20s, um, the very sinful lives that we led. Not to, I don't want to tell on her too much, but um, I know my life was not holy at all. But yeah, to have somebody that, even though we live in two separate states now, that the Lord has just like put us on this like parallel path and of growing and getting closer to Him. And it's been like I couldn't ask for a sweeter, better relationship, especially somebody who knows me and still loves me after 30 years. So yeah, she's pretty great.
Right. No, that's amazing. Yeah, I've got a similar connection to my best friend. We met. I would say we remember one another in college, and we're still friends to this day. But we recently discovered that we went to the same elementary school for a couple of years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, we didn't know that at the time, but long story short, she was doing like a yard sale or moving or something and found her old yearbooks. And her daughter was actually turning the pages and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Whitney." Like, my hair is still the same. So there was no denying it was me.
Oh my goodness. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was. So that's special too. Absolutely. And same thing, we've gotten each other through some pretty difficult and ugly times in life. So but, we kind of alluded to it already. I think probably the title to your book, Dancing into Deliverance, is also a sign, but really I just wanna release the show to you because, we were prepping before we started the show, we prayed before we started the show, and I'm like, You know what? We're just gonna go through and talk about how a difficult childhood led to a difficult times in adult life, and you're not even supposed to be here, like, you're not even supposed to be here. It's really a miracle that you're here. So I just want to tee that up. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, Andi, to just share what all you've been through and experienced. And just to everyone listening, just kind of settle in, maybe grab some tissues and just keep your heart and your mind open.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and tell the story of like what you're talking about with I shouldn't even be here. The Lord's like, yes, you should. He fought for me. There is some reason I am supposed to be here because um, I, I'm not going to give out the number because I told my mom I wouldn't, but I was supposed to be one of several abortions, and she changed her mind, and I'm so absolutely incredibly grateful. But what I'm really grateful to and for is that the kiddo before me fought really hard to for her own life. And that's what saved me. And I say it's a her. I don't know. It's just always felt like a her for me. But I this isn't the number, but I named her six, so we'll just call her six. But my mom told me the story of, she had had several abortions. This kid survived two, like lived through two. This was prior to Roe v. Wade. And what would happen with Roe v. Wade, or prior to Roe v. Wade, is that women who were seeking abortions would go and meet with the doctors at a clinic, explain their case. They were actually given a script. My mom went off script, but the normal script was, you just say that if you have to have this kiddo, then you're going to kill yourself. And so they go through the red tape and then call you back and let you know what they decide, if you're allowed to go through the procedure or not. And so my mom went with me when the clinic called her back in rare form. My dad was there, and my mom says, the phone rings. My mom says, I think, that's the clinic. And my dad says, well, what do you want to do? And she said, I think I want to have this kid. And he's like, fine, expletive. And don't answer. And so that's how I got to be here. Is she just didn't answer the phone. She changed her mind, and I guess for the rest of the pregnancy, my dad was still trying to get her to go through with it. But that kid, like I can't wait to meet that kid. Um, six, when I get to heaven, and that's one of the reasons that I live a very, very, very different life. And part of it is because when I get to heaven, I'm going to have to answer to all the kids that came before me who didn't get to live. And did I do it well? Did I do it? Did I help build the kingdom? Did I do the things that they would have done? Did I take the chances? Did I jump off the cliffs? Did I take the risks? Did I live? So I'm excited. You'll you'll hear me talk about having or planning parties in heaven. This is it. My first party is going to be with those kiddos, and I can't wait. It's going to be so fun.
That's a really beautiful way to look at that outcome, though, because I think there are probably a lot of people listening to this that have survivor's guilt, right? Like, why am I here? I mean, I've talked to a good bit of veterans and just other people who have been through similar situations, or, even catastrophic accidents, and they're questioning, like, why am I still here? What's my purpose? And it's, it's living that fullness of life for others that don't have that ability.
I had never thought, I mean, aside from my own case, I'd never thought about that. I've heard, yeah, people that lived through plane crashes where the other people didn't live, everything you're just talking about, and the survivor's guilt. I never even thought about that. But yeah, it is a fantastic way to like move on, not necessarily move on with life and forget them, but to live in a way that honors them because they didn't get to. And so when you get to heaven, you get to like say, okay, did I make you proud? Did I do life well? Yeah, yeah. I like how you think with that.
I process, yeah, my story's a little bit different, but I do uh carry that weight of making it count, um a lot in my own life, just from, I mean, my mother struggled most of her life with, alcohol, and as she got older, and had medical things happen, adding painkillers into that, and I kind of always think, wow, and even my father, just, how much he sacrificed for me in turn to ensure that I didn't go down that same path, like both of them, right? I view both of them, in that light of my mom, who was just never able to slay that dragon, and my father, who did everything he could to set me up for success. Like, it was my responsibility to, take that torch and run with it, but he made, darn sure he gave me every good possibility to be able to do that. And so, I view that in a lot of ways of like, okay, I've got to make this count because both of my parents are expecting me to make something out of my life. They both fought in their own way to ensure that I did that. So again, I mean, it's a completely different story, but it's kind of along the same angle. It's like they're parallel lives there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so great to see like a, a product of that who actually wants to make sure that you honor all their sacrifices and everything that they've done for you. I think a lot of times we see people just turn very selfishly and turn inward, and it's all about me. But yeah, like you want to be a good creation of theirs. Does that make sense?
That's it. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it and just parents working double jobs to make sure you have braces and, can help as much with going to college or, I had a job, but, making car payments and helping you if you can, and all those different things, right? I think a lot of times, in most cases, parents do the best job that they can with us.
My experience is that, Jesus will let you screw up for a really long time, and then he'll say, all right, now it's time to come back, and I'm going to use all of that for my glory, all that stupid you just did over the past 10 years. We're going to turn things around, and I'm going to use it for my glory. Satan thought he was going to use it to destroy you and take away your credibility, but nope.
Absolutely. Well, and just as you were saying that, because I know this leads into the second part of your story, but when you have God in your life, that's an additional um opportunity, I would say, to view it that way, right? Because we have free will, we can turn right or we can turn left. We can make a go at it or we can decide to just sit down and let life pass us by. But when you stop to realize that, hmm, Jesus, this perfect being, gave his life for me. He doesn't call us to perfection. He knows that we will never hit that mark, but he provided for us to be able to make a go at life. And I believe that that's what he wants us to do with that, right? Is give it over to him. I mean, of course, we're going to have missteps and all of those things. Sometimes going through difficult times bring us, even closer to him than pushing us further away. And he knows all those things. But, there's that too of just making a go and standing up straight and trying to do the best you can because it's a gift.
This is not on the subject that you or I discussed prior, but based on that, I want to tell a quick story, and hopefully I can make it succinct. Um, but this past week, there have been so many struggles, so many trials, so many conflicts. And unfortunately, in the conflicts, I'm finding that the Lord has done an amazing work with me, where I've been like just calm, like things that normally would have just riled me up. I've just been like, meh. And there was an incident where someone at work was, this is someone who wears kind of witchcrafty shirts. I don't think she understands like what all that is, but this is somebody also that I'm seeing that the Lord is chasing after. And so she had to have a conversation with me as she's hearing uh, things that I've said that weren't things that I've said. And so, she's asking me about these, and I'm like, nope, never, never, that is not even close to what I said. But so it was one of these conflict situations where everything that was going on wasn't accurate, it wasn't right, and miscommunication and stuff like that. And I did feel a little frustrated, but in the middle of it, like something got changed to where she was telling me about um, she had an abscess and there were some other issues. And I'm like, all right, I see she's in a lot of pain. I know when I have anything painful in my face, my whole life feels like it's painful. So I'm like, all right. And so I asked, like, hey, can I pray for you? And she's like, yeah. And so I pray for healing. There's some other stuff going on, but about And then it changes the whole conversation. The entire conversation turned into something beneficial and good, and we worked everything out. It was great. But within about 30 minutes, she was like, "Hey, I was talking to so and so, and the abscess just expressed itself, and it's like done." I didn't even think about it until the next day, where Jesus was like, "Hey, I want credit for that." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I text her real quick, and I'm like, "Hey, I just, I forgot to praise Jesus for your abscess." That sounds so gross, expressing itself, but anyway, the pain was released, the thing was released. I know. And so yeah, I was like, um, I forgot to praise Jesus about that. And so there's a little bit of texting. And then the next time I saw her at work, she, in front of somebody else, she's like, "I have no doubt it was your prayer that caused that to do that." She's like, "Anytime I've ever had it before, I have to work on it." And she's like, "I have no doubt it was your prayer." And so now there's another thing going on with work that is very, very hurtful. I'm not going to go into all of that. But now she's like my champion with this other thing. And I'm realizing that I had to go through a bunch of conflict and painful situations and things that hurt. But the Lord set everything up so that He could show off through me, through the painful situations. It wouldn't have happened without the other stuff going on. And so now she's praying for me and sending encouraging messages and telling me, like, you're this child of God and you're such a blessing here. And I'm like, what? But yeah, it's a total setup. And there have been other instances in my life where I've realized sometimes my heart gets sacrificed so that other people can come to Him. Um, and so I'm okay with that. It makes the pain feel a lot better. It makes the pain worth it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was trying to find this quote. I know you and I talked a little bit pre-show, but we were talking about Few, which is the Fellowship of Extraordinary Women, which again is how I met Heidi. And Kimberly Joy is the founder of Few International, and so she just shared this the other day. But I was like, this is so good. For anyone struggling today, this is a reminder to allow your struggles to deepen your dependence on God. To struggle without God is wasted pain. To struggle while depending on God is revelation, consolation, and transformation. And I was like, that's so good. Like you're going to struggle anyway. I want something positive to come out of that hard work.
Absolutely.
So I don't want you to give away the whole story. And we'll share before we go where people can go and find out information about the book. But I would love for you to share a little bit of like where you were before and how you got there, right? Like how did Andi go through this process of now she's like drop of the hat, need to pray with a coworker at work. We're doing it.
All right, we see where to start, but I'll just start with back in my early 20s. Like I said, I went through this debaucherous lifestyle, and back in my early 20s, I was a stripper, and the Lord used a club related sex assault to bring me back to Him. Like I strayed far. Um, that He used that assault to bring me back to Him. And what happened was I went through um, the legal process with that. And quite honestly, that was worse than the assault itself. That, they tried to do everything they could to discredit me. Even at one point, just they had said, like, they're asking me the same things over and over, and I'm having to tell the same story over and over. And I started to get upset at one point, and I hear them say, "Well, now you're just acting." And I lost it. I remember like running out of the deposition room and going to the bathroom and like getting in a corner on the floor, crying in the bathroom in this law firm. Not my finest moment ever, but so um, did all these depositions, did all this legal stuff, and then things died down for a bit, like over a year. And there I'd kind of pushed everything to the back of my head. And then my attorney calls and says, "Hey, they want to talk, um, maybe try and close this thing out. And I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, I can't. It's like, I can't go back to that. And that's when I was like, Lord, I need you to be who you say you are. You say you're my wonderful counselor. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. I can't go through this again. And I said, I need you to be who you say you are. I need you to be my wonderful counselor. And I kind of sounded like a little turd, but like very demanding. And, but within about a week or two, this lady approaches me at church and she's like, this is going to sound really weird, but I feel like the Holy Spirit's leading me to do some spiritual counseling with you. Would you be interested? I mean, it was what I prayed for. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So this wonderful woman spent every Monday night during the summer of 2000, 2 hours every Monday night, meeting with me, going back through all these old traumas and bringing Jesus into them, breaking generational curses, changing ungodly beliefs to godly beliefs. You know, those lies that you hear all the time, like you're worthless, you're nothing, nobody likes you, whatever. Changing those to godly beliefs, but then also um, getting rid of demonic oppression, which was weird. Um, I want to back up just a little bit though to the trauma part. Like like she just had me go through my entire story, and with each traumatic event, we would ask Jesus, where were you in this? We'd go back to that and ask Jesus, where were you in this? And um, one of the most beautiful things is when he shows you something different from the situation, and he can take a horrible traumatic event and turn it into something so incredibly beautiful. And I think I want to tell your the people who are watching this that you can do this at home by yourself. You can just go back to the event and just ask Jesus, hey, where were you? Just get in a room by yourself with him and ask. But what he did, this one story in particular, my stepdad used to, like, when I needed a whipping for whatever reason, um, he would get his belt. I would have to take all my clothes off, bend over the bed. He would whip me for a while, go to the bathroom for a while, whip me for a while, go to the bathroom. He would leave bruises um, on my back and the back of my legs. And at the end of it, my mom would take she would fill the bathtub like about this much with cold water and put ice in it so I could sit in it so that it wouldn't bruise as bad, so that it could, um, you get you know what I'm saying. Um, so we asked Jesus to come into this. I mean, it was always horrible, and I was stubborn too. Like he was wanting to know that I was in pain. I wasn't wanting to show him that I was in pain, and so I'm like, what, like there was so much pain, but I wasn't going to cry, and so that just made it worse, actually. But ask Jesus to come back into this, and what I see is here I am, naked, bent over the bed, and here's Jesus holding the biggest, fluffiest, whitest, cuddliest bathrobe, warmest bathrobe that you could ever imagine, and he takes this bathrobe and he covers my body with it, and then he lays over me and takes the whipping for me, takes the lashes for me. And if you can imagine having been in that situation and then getting to see Jesus, I mean, obviously that's not how it happened, but it changes things in your brain. It changes something horrible to something so beautiful. And he's so good about that. And he's not going to just force that on us. If we go to him and we ask, like, hey, what, show me something different, he'll take those and do amazing, amazing things with the traumatic stuff. He will use it for his glory. um, so to go back to the other stuff, um, like I said, there was the demonic oppression stuff. The first thing that this lady saw, and she was so gentle, so kind with us. We were talking. She's like, "Hey, I see something dark. Do you mind if I address it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And it was a spirit of murder. And when I heard this, I'm like, I could feel my entire, like, my blood just drain. I was like, "What?" And what she would do, like, throughout the whole thing, we got rid of at least 30 of these things, but this was the first one. And so what she would do is she would take authority over it, and she would tell it, "Hey, you will not speak through Andy. You will not embarrass Andy. I'm going to ask you questions. You will answer Andy." And so, like, when you see this stuff on YouTube, like these deliverances where things are manifesting, that doesn't have to happen. I hate saying that. I feel like it's abuse because, yeah. But so she did this, and she asked it where it came from, and I heard it say that it came from my mom, and I'm just like, what? So I after the
And this is before you were aware of the previous abortions, right?
no, I knew about them, but I didn't put two and two together. But my mom did, just like you did. So yeah, I went and talked to my mom later, and I was like, "This is what happened today," and she's like, "Yeah, that makes sense with all the abortions." And then later she came back to me and she's like, "I don't think that that's where it started." And she was telling me a story about how when she was 2 years old, she had a pillow over her baby brother's face. She had a brand new baby brother. She didn't like him. She's 2 years old. And she's like about to smother him. And then she starts thinking, wait a minute, my parents like this kid. Um, Maybe they might get mad at me if I kill him. Like, so she's like, that was in me from when I was a kid. And so we back it up a bit, and it turns out there's a rumor about my grandfather, her dad, that he quite possibly murdered his own brother. And so I like, even through getting rid of all these things, I get to find out more weird history about my family and these things that come down generationally. Like, we are we are stuck with, not stuck because Jesus can get rid of it, but um, third and fourth generation, these things come down, attach themselves, have a legal ground until we get rid of them. So yeah, so that's the deliverance part. So at the end of this wonderful summer of 2000, I'm free, I'm happy. There's so much that I've been released from, so much darkness that is now light, and I'm a different person at the end of this. And so I'm thanking this lady, and she goes, "You can thank me by going out and doing this for other people." And I'm like, "No, no, I am not talking to people about demons. They're going to think I'm crazy. No, And then the next thing I know, I'm telling people my story, and I'm hearing my story come out of my mouth. And I'm like, "Shut up, Andy, shut up. They're going to think you're insane." But what would happen is I tell my story, and inevitably people would be like, "I need that. I want that. Like, how do I get that?" And so I would point them back in her direction. Now, fast forward quite a bit, Satan tried to get back in there and destroy me again. And I won't go into the whole story, but I ended up having an affair, and really destroyed my life. Let a bunch of demons back in, because the Bible tells us that you know they're going to come back and try and get back into the house that's clean. And when they do, if you do the things that you were doing before, or things that allow them, things that give them legal ground, they're going to bring seven of their friends. And that's exactly what I did. Here I go and do this stupid thing, and I let all these things back in, and the Lord's like, "We'll fix you again. Well, let's clean you up." And He had to completely shatter me. Um, I ended up being with this guy for 5 years, and everything was going great. And then, like, one week things felt weird. And I asked, "Are we okay?" And he says, "No." And that was it. He was done. And then a couple of days later, I find uh, on the Apple TV, he had forgotten that his phone uploaded pictures to the Apple TV. And so there were new pictures that were showing up on the photo thing. And so I'm scrolling through and it's like, oh, Jeep trip, that's cool. And then I found a picture that was not meant for me. And I think you might know the type of picture that I'm talking about. And long story short, it turned out to be for one of my best friends. And so, like, there was just the shattering. I thought I had everything I ever wanted. I felt wanted, needed, loved, appreciated in this relationship. I thank God every day for that. And then, yeah, just shattering all at once. Everything crashed, and the betrayal was unbearable. But, like, back to what we were talking about earlier, when um, sometimes your heart gets sacrificed so that other people's souls can be saved. I feel like that was the beginning of that lesson for me when I had to forgive my friend and I had to forgive him. Um, I ended up getting the Lord asked me to write her an email, just saying, "Hey, I'm worried about you. I feel like you're going down a really dark path." And she agreed that she was, and there was a good conversation. And at the end of my email, I'm like, "I'm still here for you if you want to be friends. Like, my friendship is still available to you." I did not want to write that, and I'm so glad that her response was she was like, "Andi, I appreciate that, but I could never look you in the face. I could never look you in the eyes again." And so I'm like, "Thank you, God, thank you." But it was then when the Lord was like, "Sometimes your heart is going to be sacrificed for someone else's soul." So anyway, that was a fantastic lesson. But when he left, the Lord immediately said, and I heard this loud and clear: "I have something better for you. I will take care of you, and this is going to be a refining period." And oh, he was right. He was absolutely right about all of it. And he's been so good and so faithful. But the refining period um, this was in 2016. It has certainly continued. But for the first 6 months, it was brutal. It's been brutally good the whole time, but like the first 6 months was very, very intense. And one of the first things I got to do when he left was go back to this lady's ministry. She had started up a ministry that met every Friday. And so I got to start going to that. And there was so much healing in that, and so many people involved that were pouring into me and praying over me and helping me get cleaned up again. Um, and so that I spent about a year or two um, getting cleaned up again. And then they invited me to be one of their ministers. Like, and I got to start doing that. Like, I got to start leading other people into freedom and healing and deliverance. And it's the one time where I feel like this is what I was made for. This is, like, I'm good at this. I am, like, this is what God made me for. And so it was so great to be able to see people come in this cloud of darkness and then leave just light, like walking tall, brightness in their eyes, joy in their face. Like, it was unbelievable the work that the Lord was doing in freeing these people. And it was so good for me, and absolutely loved it. And then in 2020, when all things 2020 happened, the Lord told me to sell my business, sell or give away everything I owned, and move to New Hampshire. And I had no idea what he was what his plan was, what he was doing with that, but it was just jump off this cliff and see what happens. So I jumped off the cliff, and I there was no safety net for me, and I go out to New Hampshire, and I got to have so much fun out there. It was such an amazing adventure. And what happened though, the Lord just worked all of this out. All I had to do was just keep showing up and putting one foot in front of the other. But I got to train two pastors out there in how to do this healing, this deliverance ministry stuff. And I thought it was going to be my ministry. And then it took us, I think, a year and 8 months to get through all the training. And towards the end of it, the Lord's like, it's not yours. You're handing it over to Rhonda. It's theirs. He's like, I've got something else for you. It's time to jump off another cliff. And that's when he told me to, once again, sell or give away everything and just go on this cross country camping adventure, book writing adventure. This is where the book comes in, Dancing into Deliverance. And so obviously, I was the dancer way back when, and there's this whole deliverance process leading me to get to train these pastors. So I get to go on this. Well, I'm going to back up a little bit. It was January of 22, where I'm in my bedroom, and the thought goes through my head of I should really write on my write some more in the book that I'm writing. And I didn't. I was just writing stories. There was no map for this book. I didn't know what I was doing. And so instead of sitting down and writing like I should have, I started scrolling Facebook, which is productive. But the second thing I see on Facebook is this big, bright yellow advertisement with a typewriter and these big, bold black letters that say, "Is God calling you to write a book?"
You're like, yes, he absolutely is. And this, as if I needed any confirmation, this is it. I love when he does stuff, like, I get that way too, right? I'm like, I'm an Israelite, I'm in the desert, I'm asking for manna, it's literally raining from heaven, and I'm like, is this what you want me to partake of? Like, sometimes he's gotta hit it with the so clear, because he's like, "If I don't make it," I know, he's like, "You're not gonna do it if I don't make it so clear." And you can't deny it, you're like, "Okay."
So yeah, obviously I end up signing up for this book writing challenge. It's one of those like funnel type things where it's like this week challenge. And it's a Holy Spirit led publishing company, and they're absolutely amazing. And I'll plug them right now. It's Square Tree Publishing. But so I signed up for this thing, and the first thing that they have you do is pray and ask the Holy Spirit what the name of your book is. And I had never done that, and that's when I did, and I immediately hear Dancing into Deliverance, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's perfect. And it maps out the book, and it places all the stories the way they need to go. Because if I start with, okay, here I am dancing, this thing happened, um, and then go into meeting with this lady in 2000, then I get to go back into the stories of abuse and all the things that happened as a kid that led me to a place where I had the self esteem of a stripper. But so he mapped it out. He's just absolutely brilliant. And it's been so amazing to just find that if we ask him questions, he answers. It's so cool. So, anyway, in this time also, I felt like the Lord was saying, you have a 7-month window of opportunity to get this book written and finished. He's like, you can jump through the window or you cannot. And he's like, if you don't take this opportunity that's closing, if you don't take this opportunity, that's fine. I'll get somebody else to write the book I need written. But they're going to get the blessings that I have in store for you. And like, okay, all right. So starting in the end of April is when I started this cross country camping book writing adventure. And it's funny, I was working remote. So I had a job, I had a little bit of money coming in, and I was on the computer all the time. And so I wasn't doing the thing the Lord was asking me to do. Um, I had fun camping. It was, and I had fun exploring. And in June, I heard the Lord say, if you don't start working for me the way you work for your boss, I'm going to take that job away. And I mean, I had been writing, just not as much as I needed to. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't listen. And exactly a month later, that job was gone. And so, like, all right. So I start looking for another job. And the Lord's like, no, you work for me the way you worked for him. I will take care of you. I will provide for you. I need you to do what I asked you to do. And so I'm like, all right, fine. Whitney, I didn't have a job and I didn't need anything. I've never eaten better. Like people would just hand me money saying, the Lord told me to give you this. I mean, hundreds of dollars. Like I never wanted or needed for anything. I mean, he was absolutely amazing as long as I was doing exactly what he asked me to do.
Oh, follow. He is our heavenly Father. He sometimes has to point us back in the right direction.
As long as I was doing what he was asking me to do, the work that he was asking me to do, he took care of me in miraculous ways. And yeah, he's absolutely amazing. And so November was the 7 month. I knew I had 7 months to get this book written. November was that end date. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to finish this. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go to the desert and go where there's no cell phone, like no distractions or anything like that. And I was planning on going to Arizona. And at the very last minute, I changed my mind. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. It's too far, whatever. Um, and I'm like, Lord, where am I going? And I look at the map and I see Moab. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to Moab. And I get there, and a couple of things. I didn't have a plan with any of this, almost. And so the Lord was just leading me in all the places. And so I got to Moab, and the first campsite that I found that looked good was called it's a law enforcement memorial campground. And I used to be in law enforcement, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And then what I realized is the time that I was there, the time of the month that I was there was or the time of the year, um, was the anniversary of one of my friend's line of duty deaths, if that makes sense. So I didn't even, it didn't click until it was his date and I was there, and I'm like, wow, God, you're so good. I love how you put things together. But anyway, in that time, when I'm in Moab, I don't know how I did this other than it was Holy Spirit. I got that book finished. I got everything finished. I wrote something like, I think, 44,000 words in a span of 12 days, which is unbelievable. It's that didn't come, that wasn't me. That was God completely. And at some point, I'm like, you know what? I need to look up what Moab is in the Bible. And so I did. Whitney, Moab was the last encampment of the Israelites before they entered their promised land. And I like, Lord, I am claiming that this is the last encampment before my promised land. And so yeah, got it finished then, and now it's in the publishing process. Yeah.
Wow. He's so detailed. He's so detailed with us. I love that.
Mhm.
I definitely want to give everyone a place to go to stay updated with you, to help with the book, and to learn more and just get updates because as you mentioned, you're in the publishing process.
Correct.
So you have your Substack, which is just andipigottmartin.substack.com. So I'd love to encourage everyone to go there, follow you, stay tuned. And if they want to get involved and help with the publishing process, they can do that there on your link, right?
Absolutely. And on that Substack, there are a lot of things that I write about. A lot of it's travel, a lot of it's faith, a lot of it's politics. But I have been posting what I'm calling sneak peeks into the book. So I think I have about 11 sneak peeks. And so if you go to any of those, down at the bottom, you'll find a place like a button to where you can help if you want to help donate towards the publishing cost. That's that option is there in any of those. And yeah, always happy to send a free copy too to anybody that's donating, because yeah, I could use the help.
He's done it before and he'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for writing your story, for coming on here and sharing it. I know that that's still difficult to do, even though it's maybe something you've talked about time and time again. But those are just, it just still brings up hard memories and feelings, and I totally understand that. And so you're so brave for sharing your story, and I really appreciate you for coming on and doing that.
Well, thank you so very much. And I just thought about it. So next, I feel like the Lord has put on my heart, we talked about this earlier, I feel like the Lord has put on my heart to put together a compilation of stories of people like me who have these stories of they were supposed to be aborted, or their parents changed their mind, or maybe even survived an actual abortion. I want to put together a book that compiles all these stories so that there's evidence that we're supposed to be here. We we god god had a purpose for all of us, and he fought, especially for the survivors. He fought for us. And so yeah, so the point of that is that if there's anybody out there watching this who has that kind of story, please connect with me. I want to chat with you. I want to find out if yeah, I want to find out more. And so I'd love to compile something.
Yeah. What's the best way for them to do that, Andy?
You know what? You can, if you go to Substack or the Substack, Andi Pigott, Pigott Martin.substack.com. You can connect with me there. That's probably the best way. There, yeah, that's probably the best way.
Awesome. And we'll put that in the links and comments as well, so people can direct click and connect with you. Awesome. Thank you. This has been great, Andy.
Thank you so much, Whitney. This has been so fun.